Well, we are 32 days, 15 hours, and a few minutes to the big day, the general elections. Well, clandestine meetings, open sessions, all go on as politicians continue strategizing about the next phase of their campaign. Who will finish strongest? Will there be a strain in their pockets? Will there be new converts to swell their ranks? Well, all will be revealed in one of the most fascinating times in our election history, Nigeria 2015. Good evening. Welcome to Nigeria 2015. I'm Chamberlain Uso. While publicity for elections may have waned across board, but all eyes remain firmly fixed on March 28th and April 11th. Well, that's the big date for the elections, at least for now. Well, no politician wants to make any error that will cost their party votes. Their supporters and well-wishers continue to canvass for their candidates, and parties tussle. Well, the tussle rages across local governments and the state in the country. Well, we'll make our rounds today as well and find out what else is happening with our correspondents who will bring us up to the minute about what is going on at their location.
Hello and welcome. I am Amaka Okafor, standing by in Abuja to give you details of critical happenings in the FCT.
Well, we'll also get to speak to some more as the program progresses, so just hold on with us today. Who cares about the social media? Well, our web team will provide us the platforms for you to air your views on the program today. Well, don't forget, you can tweet at us using the hashtag Nigeria 2015. Well, please use the Twitter handle you see on your screen now. Well, if you have comments or questions, do send us an email, nigeria2015@channelstv.com. Well, joining us tonight, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab is a member of the All Progressive Congress. He was also an aspirant for the governorship position in the state. Well, on Skype from Abuja will be Dafe Akpedeye, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who will be giving us the benefit of law on the program today. And on the phone, Mr. Akin Oshutokun is a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. We'll get to hear his voice later today. Well, the thing is, they agree that security is important in these elections, but disagree on the kind of security to deploy. While some say yes to the deployment of the military, others simply say no. But another school of thought decries manufacturing of laws, tailoring them to elections. Let's join you through how all of this perhaps may have started or may have gathered steam, as a matter of fact, whether or not to deploy the military to the elections or not. Some court judgments played out only recently. There was this one, the Court of Appeal judgment in Sokoto, where they ruled about the use of military. Lots of people latched onto that and said, well, there you go. So if the court has ruled, we'll have to do what the court says. And it wasn't long ago. No, that was Federal High Court, Sokoto. Then the Court of Appeal also ruled saying almost the same thing as the Federal High Court in Sokoto. So when that happened, you also had, if I remember properly, Conference of APC States did also speak up, encouraging the president or urging him to go ahead and obey the court order as has been ruled upon. Well, the APC there also did say, well, yes, indeed, the military has no role to play in the conduct of elections, that their services will be better utilized in other pressing areas, besides security, and that subjecting the fate of democracy to the military, in their words, is a coup against the people. And then INEC was also to take cognizance of the Superior Court's ruling on the use of the military. They went on to say the law, the 1999 Constitution, is indeed very clear on this matter, more so as perhaps underscored by the rulings in the court, the party so says. But it wasn't long after the People's Democratic Party also came up, speaking up, saying, wait a minute, the APC, they've got a hidden agenda in all of this. And why will they be speaking up at this time about this, especially when they know the challenge facing us as a nation at this point in time. They say the government should deploy military for the polls. Then intimidation of voters and unleashing violence on the land, of course, will not want that to happen. But they also say that they are committed to a peaceful election. And of course, the government will arrest any person, no matter how highly placed, if found wanting on the day. So security is important. They also say, of course, but that will come up in the programming today to find out what the views are and perhaps on the points of law. But INEC also speaking up on this matter. Remember, the chairman of the commission has spoken up severally about how they need to deploy military security for the elections. But it did say also that it will be only if the occasion so warrants. And the military will provide peripheral security. Then they will be on standby for rapid deployment should need be. Then the role of the military also limited to providing INEC logistic support. They've been having several meetings. Remember, they say that time and again about certain committees, but we'll bring you that in just a minute. But before we go on to that one, let's tell you about the commentary coming from the military themselves about all of this making the rounds. Well, we also do have Colonel Akin Kejawa, retired. He did say he's a former director of Army Legal Services. He's quoted to have said, moving beyond this slide down of Kaidido. Now, the colonel also did say that Boko Haram is a form of insurrection. Now, yes, indeed, there were cases that were cited, sections of the 1999 Constitution. Following that ruling, they also cite Section 217, Sub 2C of the 1999 Constitution. But here, retired Colonel Akin Kejawa also says, yes, indeed, Section 217, Sub 2 says one of the duties of the military is suppressing insurrection. Military is covered under the Constitution to go ahead. As a matter of fact, let me reach for that and read verbatim from the law of what it says. 217 2C says, the Federation shall subject to an act of the National Assembly made in that behalf, equip and maintain the armed forces as may be considered adequate and effective for that purpose. And then C says, suppressing insurrection and acting in aid of civil authorities. I'm paraphrasing the rest of it. We'll go on and talk about that in the course of the program, but that's part of the law wherein retired Colonel Akin Kejawa was citing when he was making reference to Section 217 Sub 2C. But you know, some of the other issues there about the Inter-Consultative Committee on Elections. They had several meetings with the commission, with political parties. They also say, well, yes, in that consultative committee, they have a list of main agencies to be used for the elections by INEC. In that meeting, before all of this came up, even when all of this eventually popped up, you have the Office of the National Security Advisor, you got the Police Service Commission, Nigerian Air Force, Nigerian Army, National Intelligence Agency, Nigerian Immigration Service, Federal Road Safety Corps, Nigeria Prison Service, Nigeria Police Force, Ministry of Police Affairs, Nigerian Navy, State Security Service, Nigerian Customs, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Nigeria Civil and Security and Civil Defense Corps, and the National Youth Service. So all of these agencies had had several meetings with INEC about security. Quite a handful, you may say. So you then wonder, from whence come all these arguments? Don't forget, they cite court orders about what is it with security. How should the military be deployed? There's some recent cases which will pop up in just a minute. But let's take you through what has been said not long ago about the use of military in some of these films.
Do you think that we need military deployment for the 2015 general elections?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. You see, I'm not a politician. I will not be a politician. People are not reading the full panoply of laws that are applicable. Part of the laws we've got to read, let me remind everybody who's listening to this, is the Geneva Conventions Act. The Geneva Conventions are applicable in Nigeria. And that includes Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions with respect to the protection of civilians in conflict, in armed conflict. Now, in 2013, as far back as 2013, the International Committee of the Red Cross, which supervises the operation of the Geneva Conventions, decided that Nigeria, determined independently of Nigeria's government, that Nigeria was in a non-international armed conflict. That's a civil war. In 2013, the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court decided that Nigeria is in a civil war. In February 2014, the National Human Rights Commission determined that Nigeria is in a civil war. We cannot in 2015 deny that Nigeria is in a civil war. We don't have the assets to protect all of Nigeria. If you were to deploy just police and deploy what else? Civil defense. You don't have the assets. Let's be honest about this. We don't have the assets to protect all of Nigeria for these elections, given the fact that we're fighting a war. We have to be honest about it. And we've got to ask ourselves as Nigerians, how do we elevate this conversation beyond who captures power and who takes it and who holds it? How do we do the best for our people? No judge should confuse you and tell you, oh, you know, on that day I will protect you because I can write a judgment. They won't. No lawyer, no senior advocate should confuse you. Oh, you know, we know the law. At the end of the day, it is the commander-in-chief and the governors who swear to an oath to protect the people. And they have to be honest with themselves and say, okay, so you take the army out of the equation, right? In a country that is fighting a war, in which in 1 year alone, you had more mortality than Iraq and Afghanistan put together, in which in the last month, we've lost over 4,000 people, and you are saying you're going to have elections in which your best equipped people are going to be staying in the barracks? I will not vote in those elections.
Professor Chidi Odenkalu of the National Human Rights Commission speaking up about what he thinks of those arguments about whether or not to use the military and in what circumstance. Well, he did say that their job is to advise